Hello there. Thank you for joining us. It's the middle of December. That can only mean one thing. It's Christmas special time. Oh yes, I've been waiting for this. I love Christmas, and this is full of so much nostalgic joy. Well, it's 50 minutes of nostalgic gorgeousness, so hold on to your butts, we're going in. It's the Microlife Christmas special.
Welcome to the Microlife Christmas show. In this month's programme, we have an exclusive interview with the man who hacked Prince Philip's Prestel electronic mailbox.
Oh,
We'll be
Prestel,
attempting to create
getting
the
hacked.
world's tackiest
Nice
electronic
one.
Christmas card and suggesting presents for the computer buff who has everything.
Or
and I'll be
not.
talking to Chris Palmer, if I can stop him playing,
what's he
and make him
playing
talk
there?
to me about the past, present and future of computer
It's like
games.
a Laserdisc
We'll
game.
also be unveiling the first ever computer game for over 1 million players, and everyone watching can join in.
Okay. Oh wow, what were they called now?
Thank you, Bill.
Oh,
And Bill
he used to
Bruford
sit
from
on
King
King
Crimson is here
Crimson.
to demonstrate his
Oh, wow.
spectacular electronic number. Well done. And from America, Freff has good news
Oh, Freff's
for
back.
cartoon fans.
In that picturesque pink building behind
We're
us,
looking good
some
so
very
far.
interesting pictures are being made.
On this lost world of humankind, the oldest myth is true.
Beautiful. Jack Tramiel, the new boss of ailing Atari company,
Jack?
announced in London
Jack
on Wednesday
Tramiel?
that he's slashing the price of the 800 XL by a quarter to £130 with immediate effect. Jack founded Commodore, but left suddenly in January this year.
I'd
He has
love
now
to know
declared
why you
war
left
on his
Commodore.
own company, saying that he has until the
So
31st
much-
of December to turn Atari round. When we
So
asked him why he
unfinished
left
business.
Commodore, he said, "If you don't go into your work smiling, you don't go in at all." Well, he's smiling now, so perhaps Commodore had better watch out.
Well, Monday sees the last rights for the game software company Imagine, as the Liverpool auctioneers Turner and Sons sell off the company's remaining
Imagine used to do
hardware
some
in
brilliant games.
249 lots. Now, the actual name of Imagine has been taken over by Ocean Software.
That it
whose
did.
Daley Thompson's Decathlon is still #1 in Gallup's software top 50. The whole story is told on the BBC documentary Commercial Breaks, which goes out at 8
Commercial
on
Breaks
BBC Two
is
on Thursday.
actually on
It really is compulsive
YouTube,
viewing.
and I highly recommend you watching it. It's a good little
Ed was
documentary.
a bit sceptical about the floppy disk that we tried to destroy in last month's programme. He could see how dipping a disc in beer wouldn't affect its performance.
But
he
just a
says,
waste of beer.
How can anything survive all that Barry Manilow?
He has got a point. Mr. Machin went to stunning lengths to do in his own floppy disks. He told us, "I was charged with 40,000 volts on a Van de Graaff generator while I had a disc.
Why
in
would
my
you do
pocket.
such a
The
thing?"
disc still worked. I wonder if Mr. Machin still worked though.
Maybe not. Well, John Smith complains that we're doing too much about telephones and telecommunications. But you can't please everybody all the time. And David Craig says, could you please have a bit more
Telecommunications,
on,
yep.
guess what, telecommunications.
BBC's
We'll keep trying.
giving people
We've
the
had
right
over
to reply
2,000
there, as they
people
always
dial into
did.
the Microlife bulletin board, but we've discovered a slight problem as our storage disks are overflowing. Now, so much so that we've had to
They've
start
had so
putting
much
callers
trouble
off
with
to
this
let other callers
BBS.
on. I'm sorry if that's happened to you.
The ongoing
We are
saga
hoping
of
to
the
improve
BBS.
system shortly, aren't you?
Well, our integrated software project has attracted 650 inquiries, from deep-sea divers who want to keep track of their oxygen, to vicars who want to help writing their sermons. I keep hearing that story over and over again. I wonder if there really is a vicar. To architects who want a computer to help them rebuild Glasgow. Well, we'll be choosing 3 people to put their applications on the integrated software next week.
And now, serious for a moment, a word of warning. An advert for a company calling itself Spectra Imports UK has been appearing in some computer magazines. Ian McNaught of Paddington spotted this one in Your Spectrum and phoned us.
Wow,
because
look at those
he was very
prices.
suspicious
$59.99?
of extremely cheap prices.
That
They
would be
offer
suspicious.
A Spectra 48K for £59.95 and a BBC Model B for just £315. It seems too good to be true, and indeed it is. The company
Yeah,
is
that's what they
bogus.
say.
It's currently under investigation by the Lancashire Police. They have managed to recover about 500 letters with money, and these will be returned when their investigations are completed. Meanwhile, listen, if you spot an advert that offers computer products very cheaply, beware. Don't part with your money unless you're absolutely
Sounds like some
certain it's
people were very lucky there.
Last week, the papers were full of news of hackers getting, among other things, into Prince Philip's Prestel mailbox. Time Fame, one of Prestel's most popular information providers, claimed that a mole had been leaking information to the hackers from inside Prestel itself, and this led to denials from BT and the robust removal of Time Fame's contract. Now, hacking may or may not be a criminal offence. It's never actually been tested in the courts. But Prestel this week described hackers as electronic shoplifters. It's almost certainly illegal if it leads to damage to other people. But hackers can reveal loopholes in systems which less scrupulous people
I mean, look
could
at
use
a
for
lot of
malicious
hackers
or
now get employed
fraudulent
by
ends.
companies to
Microlive has tracked down
make the
one of
security
the hackers,
tighter.
and since he wants to keep on using his phone, he naturally wants to remain anonymous. So I think we'll just call him Mike.
Mike, what are we looking at now?
We're looking at Vampire, which is what BT used to monitor the Prestel computers. This is Kipling computer, and each block on the screen...
Dave, is that you?
The computer, and
I recognise you, mate. It's Dave from Cambridge.
Use, and if so, what it's being used for, either
No,
a
it's
user
not.
into
I'm
Prestel
only kidding.
or an update coming through from one of the information providers.
Now, that wouldn't be accessible to any information provider, nor anybody actually using Prestel.
No, only to Prestel staff.
Now, let's get one thing absolutely clear right from the beginning. Right. Is there a mole in British Telecoms?
There is no mole in British Telecom. Time Fame, one of the IPs on Prestel, one of the people who publish information, had a story last week saying that they thought there might be a mole within Prestel. The hack that they claimed took place didn't actually take place. I know that for a fact. There's nobody in Prestel that I know of passing information.
So you've received no information from
Prestel, of course, was the name of the post office view data system.
Yes, it is.
And what did you find there?
I mean, it's high. I
Not
think
a
it had
lot.
something
I
like
could have read his
90,000
mail,
users, something like
which
that. It
was
wasn't
mail
mega
he'd been
popular,
sent from
but
Prestel
it was certainly
users.
useful.
And I could also have
Compared
sent
to,
mail
I think in
which
France,
would have
they had a
come
system,
from the Duke
I forgot what it was called now, but their system was very heavily public backed, and
How did you do it?
it was huge,
It
the
started
French
about a
system
year
compared
ago.
to ours.
I was sitting next to a Prestel terminal. It was asking me for an ID. The nearest key to my finger was 2, so I pressed 22222222222. And to my surprise, it
In
said,
my previous
"Correct,
life, I
please
was
enter your password."
a
It had
travel
taken all
agent,
those twos as
and
an ID. So I tried
they
1, 2, 3,
still
4
to this
password,
day
and
use
password
a
worked.
view data system for
I was
booking
logged on as Mr. G.
flights.
Reynolds, who was a member of Prestel. He worked for Prestel and was
So
therefore a member of the closed user group, which is a part of
antiquated, it's
Prestel that
unreal.
only BT employees can see. Within that
But yeah,
BT
it's still being used
database
today.
was the phone numbers of all Prestel's development computers, which I then had access to. So I used to dial them up every week and see what was happening. There wasn't much going on, but I dialed them up every week just to see. Then, at the beginning of last month, I dialed one of them again. It was a 236 number in London, which has now been changed. I was amazed that on the front page of that computer, where it says please enter your ID, someone had written the ID number and password of the system manager of Prestel. And armed with that ID, I could discover the identity number and password of any user of Prestel, including
This
the
is it with security.
Well,
It's
Prestel have told
always
me you
exploited
changed
at
all
its
their
weakest
passwords.
point.
Can you still get in?
Yes, I
And it
can.
will never change.
There's
That
one
will
problem,
never
that if you
change.
want to
Find the
change your
weakest
password,
point, there will
you have
always
to
be
dial
one.
all the computers on which you're registered, and some people haven't done that because it's difficult to get through to a specific computer. You usually have to dial a special phone number, and you've got a 50-50 chance of getting through to certain computers. Also, the information providers who put the information on Prestel
Not very
have
festive, is
3
it?
sets of
Talking
passwords,
about hacking
of
and
which
people
Prestel have now
losing their
changed 2 after this hack.
Well,
However, there's still a way of getting into Prestel.
whatever it is
I
used to
can
keep on
do
Prestel.
using
Bit of a
just
grim
that third
start to the
password
Christmas
BT
special.
haven't changed.
So you could actually get on to Prestel and rack up a bill for somebody else, some other third party, which they'd have to pay.
Yes, and still change people's information.
Change people's information from the information providers.
Yes.
What can you actually still do apart from that?
I can get into nearly every database on Prestel and change the information and run up a bill and see BT internal information that I'm not supposed to see.
So what's your advice to users?
My advice to users is write to Prestel today and ask for your identity number to be changed, not just your password.
And what about the advice to Prestel?
Advice to
Change
Prestel
username and
is
password.
change your passwords.
Do you think of yourself
go.
as an electronic thief, as they try to imply in that press cutting?
No, I use Prestel myself in business for sending information to my friends, and I've got my life savings in my HomeLink account, which is a home banking system on Prestel. I want that system to be as safe as possible because I've got my money amongst other people's, and I'm making sure that Prestel is safe. At the moment, it isn't. I'd like to see it as safe as possible.
Thank you very much. So the advice there to the user is change your passwords regularly, and to Prestel, it's change your passwords regularly, and perhaps get a grip.
What is this game? Oh, Super Don Quixote. Is that it?
Above the average arcade game, isn't it? Pictures are stunning.
Sure it is.
Well, this is state-of-the-art as to what's in the arcade at the moment. It's a game called
look at
Super
this.
Don Quixote, and as you can see from the quality of the
Yeah,
graphics,
right.
it's a Laserdisc game. And there's 1,280k worth of memory in there.
Oh,
So you're not
Laserdisc
actually gonna
games
see
just
that on
look
your home micro
so
this year.
good.
Mind you, things have
They looked
progressed tremendously
amazing.
in the home
You'd always have a
games
bit of
field since they first
a
began.
queue, a bit of
Because
a
it only began in
huddle
1974 with
as
a
someone
guy
played
called
it,
Nolan
but
Bushnell,
they just
who
didn't.
invented the first Pong game. And of
They
course,
just
started
didn't
coming into our homes
play as
before
well as you'd initially
these
think.
wonderful things, which I suppose is a techno-antique now, really.
10 years ago, it looks so dated.
Where it
I
all
know, it's
started
wonderful.
for me.
And as you can see, I mean, the graphics leave a little bit to be desired.
I had a
Very
Binatone
simple.
TV Master.
Still a good game, though.
Yeah, I think we were really easily pleased in those days.
Yes. Well, of course, games came really into their own with the arrival of the home computers. And what I'd like to show you now is some of the more exciting directions which games are taking. So we're starting off on this one with a game called Mud.
A multi-user dungeon, but I don't know what you do with it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, basically, it's the same as an adventure game.
Multi-user
but as opposed
dungeons,
to the game being resident in the computer.
I think they're still going
it's
today, to
running
be
on a
honest with you.
mainframe,
Last
which
time
is
I
miles
heard.
away. And so you tie into it via a modem down the phone line, and it's a huge adventure. So you play it in the same way you explore.
Very much a
upgrades
hobbyist
and
thing.
Things like that.
And multi-user, that implies lots of people can use it at the same time?
Oh, there can be hundreds of people on the system, and you can actually run into them as you're wandering around the playing area, and you can chat to them.
And you access that through a Commodore, a modem, and then on the CompuNet system, is it?
Well, yes, on the CompuNet, but you can also get directly in via Essex computer or using a different sort of host computer.
Righty-ho. Well, shall we pop in and see what's going on?
Oh, yes. Well, what's going on here? We got Mac the Wizard has popped in to say hello.
Bad acting
And
there.
he says, "How are you?" So
Are you going to reply to that?
I don't know.
Guess, go on.
I'll say hello back. Why not? And so that'll now go down the line and come back. Oh, so
hello
it
back.
said
The
hello.
lovely thing about something like this is it's totally unpredictable. You really don't know what on earth you're going to get back, do you?
Well, no,
all
I
the
mean,
time?
it's a huge playing area, much bigger than you get in there.
Very, very good way of extending or getting around the limitations of memory. in
Yes,
home
it's
computers.
very good. But of course, there are other ways you can do it, which is shown by this game, which is called Quo Vadis, from a company called The Edge. And what
Oh,
they've
Quo
done is
Vadis,
they've
yeah.
written a game that's got
That
1,000
was
screens in it.
huge. Well, the map was
So
huge.
if you imagine that that's a 14-inch screen, if you were to put them all together and lay them out, you'd have an area of something like 46
I think
feet
it
by
was
30 feet.
the biggest
So-
map at the time.
Tremendous amount of memory, which this computer hasn't got.
No, you see, that's the clever bit. You see, they've developed a coding system which allows them to shrink that data down into a manageable size.
Yeah.
Now, we've got a bit of cardboard at the back with a diagram, which is going to make this a lot easier to explain.
I'm glad about that.
Yes.
It's quite complicated, isn't it?
Right. So the screen is made up of 6 graphics blocks that all fit together in a variety of combinations, and there are over 100 in the program itself, and you can combine them in different ways to make up the different screens. So when you move onto the screen, the computer takes out 6 bytes of memory, and each of those bytes represents one of these graphic blocks. It then decodes them, so it says, okay, that one there means there's platforms in that bit of the screen, that one means there's a tower, and so on. So it just builds the picture up
I
as you
see.
move
So
into
it
the scene.
takes its choice out of this, which represents the entire playing area. That's it, and that's a screen's worth.
Yeah, just 6 bytes.
Just 6 bytes.
Yeah.
So it's not using anything like its memory capacity. That's excellent. Now, I think we ought to really talk about the object of this game
Yeah.
as well.
Well, basically, the little chap can wander around inside.
Never played
and,
this, by the way.
Explore.
But
and
like I
find
said, I've just
things.
heard of it.
But there is a catch to this game. Hidden inside somewhere in one of those 1,000 locations.
Not my cup of tea. I
there's a
think that's
scepter.
what you'd
If you
say.
find that and answer a couple of questions, there's 30 grand, providing they've sold enough copies of the game.
Hold it! I found the scepter.
Wrong scepter. That's the part of the prize. You get that if you find the
That's
scepter in the
cool.
program.
Looks
very
like
practical.
a
It's a nice try.
prop from
Nice,
Star
nice
Trek or
too.
something.
Not bad going.
Real one for a minute.
Yeah.
Klingon prop
Anyway,
or something.
Both of those are actually
Cool, though.
on sale this Christmas, so you can buy those if you want. But we're
Ah,
going to have a look
Laserdisc
at something
games.
now, which isn't in the British shots for Christmas. What we've got here is a video disc player interfaced to an MSX computer. And in this game, the computer is controlling
The problem
images
is
you
with
see on the
Laserdiscs,
screen.
the
Plus,
longevity,
it's also
they
overlaying
have so
images
much.
of its own on the top. So this provides
longevity
sort of guiding
issues. They just weren't
intelligence for
designed
pictures
to be
you see
going back
here.
and forth,
But
back
the
and
pictures are
forth,
actually
picking up
real, aren't they? I mean, they look terribly
different
real.
Live footage.
It's like
clips.
Too real.
They just wore out.
Yes, it's live footage.
That's why you don't really see
But
many of
what
them
you do
today.
is, as you move the joystick to the left, whoops, or to the right, you can see your perspective changes.
So you're actually jumping lanes, aren't
Yeah,
you?
trying to avoid the cars and the barrels, and if
And
you
the
don't.
and the horrendous slashes. Right, so this is combining what? Two mediums, really, isn't it? It's combining the video and then the keyboard and the computer.
That's right, it's getting
Actually-
over the problem. I mean, memory is used up a lot by graphics.
Yeah.
So by having video disc images, you get over that problem.
So you cut out that use of memory altogether,
Yeah.
really, don't you? So you've got your lovely images. Well, I don't know about lovely, it's horrendously
Yeah.
real. I feel like
Well-
I'm actually driving the car.
Yes, I mean, I suppose it's half the
I
way
remember in the
there.
arcade
But the
though, there was
illusion is
a
really
pretty good
incomplete.
space
You
game. I
never
can't
see it.
remember what it was
If you'd like
called
to
though
take a
at
seat,
the
I shall
moment.
attempt to complete the illusion for you.
I sit down
And
in
Firefox
here,
as well.
Yes, and that-
Firefox
In a
was
little
it.
chair?
No, it's not an old chair. That must be
probably the
ultimate
best. Was
game
it the best?
peripheral. What you've got either side of your head
Yes.
are two speakers,
Unbelievable.
and in the back of the chair and in the seat of the chair are subsonic drivers.
Yes.
And so
Oh,
we've
an
now
80s
wired
gaming
that
chair.
into this game. So I'm going to take
Suddenly
you for a
I
little
don't
while.
trust you, Chris.
That's all right. Turn up the volume, just sit back and enjoy
I've
it
been
a
waiting
bit.
for this all day,
Yes.
incidentally.
Well,
Right, well, I'll
you're
turn
in
up.
for the ride of
Here
your
we
life.
go.
Okay?
Okay.
So you can feel that a bit better.
Oh, I've had enough.
Game over.
Oh, it's just as well the game's over. I
Well-
was very lucky there with the sound effects I was getting that you didn't manage to crash me,
Yes, with my driving record so far.
because that would have been pretty
What is she
unfair.
wearing?
Still on that lift home?
No, I think I'll go back.
I'm surprised she's not giving off them
very much,
computer
Chris.
electric shock with them
Now,
buttons that
if
she's
you don't
wearing.
fancy this overwhelming amount of hardware possibly cluttering up your living room, there's some research going on in the States which could make the whole lot obsolete. Telekinesis is the long-disputed theory of controlling things by the mind. Well, now I know it's not the time or the place for a genuine scientific experiment,
Okay.
but we couldn't resist recruiting you, the audience, to give it some thought, so to speak. I've got a little program on this computer which has been designed by our tame techie Steve in the office, and the program drives this spaceship upwards towards these gates. As it travels upwards, it can go left, right, completely at random, unless that is
What is this
our
hokum?
wills could possibly direct it otherwise. What do you think? Well, if you'll all concentrate at home, if everybody will concentrate in the studio, including you, Mac, I want to recruit you for this exercise. Okay, we'll have the lights down for atmosphere.
Here we go.
That's it. And a little drum roll from Bill, please. And we will now think it through.
Focus. Focus.
Think to the left.
Focus.
Think to the left. Think to the left. Think to the left. 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 Failed.
What the hell is that?
Well, I've seen some rubbish in my life, Lesley, but that does take some believing. Well, we thought it might be fun to make a micro-life Christmas card, so we've got together a selection of graphics packages. Normally, these packages won't work together at all.
Interesting.
In fact, we've had to write rather special software to let the output of one package be fed as input into another package. And we're taking as our first input this digitising camera here.
He's got a digital
pointing at
camera.
This incredibly moth-eaten, sub-micro miniaturised Christmas tree. The output from this camera
That's a
goes straight into the micro here.
decent-ish.
We're going to use a graphics package, but something similar to this is available on most micros. And to control it, we're using a well-known mouse, and as you know, the ball here, as it moves across the
Look at that
table,
mouse.
moves the cursor around
It's a mouse
on
and a
the
half,
screen
that.
here. And we can control, there's 3 function keys here, one for action, one to cancel, and so on. And so I'm going to start and improve this
You've got
picture.
it
This
wrong
is
way around,
actually
mate.
the picture we're getting of this dreadful little Christmas tree, and I'm going to try and
Is
smart
that
up.
it?
I think the first thing I'm going
That's
to
the
do
digital
is
Christmas
I'm
tree.
selecting up here.
Oh,
in the
my
top
word.
right-hand top right-hand
Oh,
corner,
okay.
there is some icons which show a pencil.
You could have drawn
a
better,
paint
mate.
sprayer, and a roller, and that's an eraser.
Yeah, use the
and so on.
eraser.
And down lower down here, there's the size of the spray and the thickness of the lines and so on, and that's the colour that I'm actually transmitting at the moment. So
This
I'm going
has
to use
got
the paint spray,
all the ingredients
select
of car
a
crash
fairly
written all
reasonable
over it.
thickness line, and then paint in some roots of the tree around here, something like this. Not so bad. And then perhaps with a thinner line, I'll separate that off across there, and then break the tree up a little bit into various areas.
Ian, what
I'll
are you
colour
doing?
it later, or make rather nice. And perhaps over here we'll put in a path coming down through the snow. It's rather nice so far. And then I'm going to change. I've been doing it
Okay,
in
well,
black,
the
so I'm
path
going to
looks
select
nice.
over here, and on the
I agree
bottom,
about the path.
We can see quite a lot of different colours we can do. So I've selected white now, and I'm going to select a thicker line and draw myself a house. And we'll take that across there like that.
Okay. Let's see what your house looks like. Whoa, what are you doing?
Have a window. And then with a thinner
Where?
line, select a thinner line. It's very rapid. Draw the wall. And then I'll put in a door here to make
That wall's not straight, is it?
good. There's the door. Perhaps a few stars.
It's not
would
up to
look quite
code.
nice in this dark sky. And then we can select.
Trying to remember what was the
circle
first
here
art package
and
I used. I think
place
it was
that in the
Koala
middle.
Pad
And
on
of course
the
we can have
Commodore
any diameter
64.
light, so we'll make a nice big
Think
fat
so.
hole and fix that in position. And it's beginning to look quite smart, I think. We might like to put some text in, so I'll select the text here. We'll do it in
D-Paint
very
was
bold, and select the text.
where I felt
here,
most at home.
and I'll place
That
it.
was such a
up
nice
there.
program to
This is the
use.
first time I use the keyboard. I'll put it micro and underneath live. Oh, didn't like that. Live. And that's it. Well, of course, it doesn't look particularly good. So what we thought we might do is use the roller up here and put in some different shadings. Well, obviously that's meant to be snow, so we'll call that snow, snow, snow. The path, perhaps the roots of the tree, that one. There's the roots of the tree.
They're not
Some
roots.
Nice
What
colours
are you
around
doing to the tree,
Well, not
man?
really colours, but patterns. That's jollied it up a little bit. Clearly we need a roof on the house. A shingle roof would go well. Windows are windows, so we'll put some windows in there.
Oh, well, the window looks
With a
nice.
path,
Actually, I must
put
agree.
the path in. And there we are. We have some sort of Christmas card. Well,
It's a
anybody
Christmas
who
card for the person
actually,
you don't
has a
really
colour
like
set
much.
would readily recognise that the one thing that lacks is some colour. Now, what I could do is plug in another device into
To be
this
honest, I'd be
and
so
use
nervous
some
if
more
I had to
software,
do
but
this
instead of
on
doing that, it takes
on
rather long
live
time to
TV
convert
with
it.
an audience
I've
watching.
taken
So,
a picture that
yeah,
I drew
fair
earlier
play.
on this evening here, and I'm going to use this device, a new input device, which is a
Look at
graphics
that.
tablet. And this time, instead of being controlled by a mouse,
graphics
it's
tablets
controlled
have
by a
moved on
pen.
so much.
There's a little switch here, which switches it on and off. And on this
Imagine getting
tablet,
one of those
it
at Christmas,
positions the
though.
cursor,
You'd be over
and
the
as I move
moon.
it around, the cursor will appear on the screen. I'm
That's a
using some
proper
more
piece of
software here
hardware.
to place the colours. I'm selected a brush, a yellow brush, and I'm going to fill. And I move the cursor, and there's the cursor. First of all, I'm going to fill the door there and place on there. And with a bit of luck, there we got a yellow door. And perhaps to cheer it up, we'll put in a yellow moon as well. Oops, missed the yellow moon. Ah, didn't work, the yellow moon. So perhaps I'll have another go at that. Fill. And yellow moon coming up. Ah, made it. Brilliant. So this time I'm going to select another colour, red, and I'm going to draw some lines. And this.
What, you're going to draw in
thick
red
lines
on a
will do,
Christmas
Because we
card?
need a bit of cheer on this amazing Christmas tree that I've drawn. And so I can quickly start and put patterns all over the Christmas tree. Isn't this amazing? This is pure art. You're seeing creativity actually happening, and wonderful. I didn't
Pure
really know
art.
I had it in me. And
It's
having
okay,
done
isn't
that,
it?
of course,
It's all right.
The next thing we want to do is to save
He's
that.
doing it live.
So I save it.
I'd be so nervous
Now we're going to enter
if
a
I
file
went to
name.
this
I'm going
live
to
on
call it
TV.
dump, which is the place that this is likely to end up. Now it's saving it on disk, and the last thing we want to do, of course, we can't send it electronically. I guess we could have sent it electronically, but we're not connected up. So what I want to do is to print it out. And we've got a little program here which takes another piece of software, and it will start as soon as it's drawn on the screen to print it out on this line printer.
Ooh.
And while that's happening, we'll go over to the United States and see Freff.
Sounds like a plan.
Animation is one of the great art forms of the 20th century. But if you've been watching cartoons for the last few years, you've seen the quality going downhill. That's because good animation costs a lot.
Certainly does.
Time and materials. Well, be of good cheer. Here on Long Island, at the New York Institute of Technology, things are happening which are
Oh,
changing
this will be
all of that.
interesting.
The Computer Graphics Laboratory here brings together artists, engineers, and computer programmers. For nearly 10 years, they've been developing computer systems for manipulating images. One of their latest projects is a film called Dragonfly.
I'm surprised they were doing
Enter a world where the strange meets
graphics
the
animation
familiar,
back in 1984 like this.
where heroism comes in unlikely guises.
For smooth animation,
I thought it
every
came
second
later
of
in the
film
day.
requires 24
We're in the
separate-
late 80s.
In the past, each picture had to be drawn and colored by hand. One reason why traditional animation is so expensive. The action of each character or object is advanced slightly in successive frames, giving the illusion of continuous movement.
I just haven't got the patience for that. It looks amazing.
For dragon
That's a
flight,
proper skill.
only about 1 in every 4 pictures is drawn by hand. These keyframes are digitized and fed into one of the laboratory's DEC mini-computers using a video camera. Drawing the rest of the pictures is called in-betweening. Mary
In-betweening.
Mandarella, an ex-Disney artist, explains how the computer system works.
So this is where your principal artist would draw frames 1 and 5 and 10, and then your in-betweening would be done by
one of the TV
an
and the
in-between
other the
artist.
BBC logo, and each drawing has the same exact amount of lines. Line number 1 from the TV outline will transform into the C of the BBC logo right here.
The entire exterior is the same line.
The same line. The 2 exterior lines of the Bs will transform from the 2nd and 3rd line hidden on the TV screen.
But there was only one line there that I saw.
Well, I made a fake line, one on top of the other, to trick the machine into doing that interpolation for me.
I see.
So you have to give it enough information. The knobs are also doubled, so you can see them split apart, see? And they're going to the interior
It's a very good way
lines.
of demonstrating that.
So actually what you're doing is telling each line where to go and how to get there in order to make that interpolation very smooth and very clear for you.
Now, in this case, you only did 2
That's really
drawings
clever.
yourself, right?
That's all. The first key frame right here and the last key frame right here. And the rest of them are all computer generated.
How much time does this kind of technique, this computer technique, save you?
Well, in numbers, if we worked in a conventional studio like I did years ago, if we had a staff of 50 or 60 people, now you could do the same amount of work with 5 or 10.
And the in-betweening system isn't limited to simple images. This piece, called Saw Loser, has over 100
That is so
lines
clever.
and about 5 computer-generated pictures for each one drawn by hand. Once the line drawings are fully animated, the next step is to add color. Annette Zachariah, another artist, demonstrates.
Nice. Look at
When I
this.
begin, I call an unpainted cell into my frame buffer.
So we're going to see
and
some
I
cell
call up
shading.
My palette, which you'll notice consists of only 15 colors. I choose my colors and I start filling in directly. Now, if I wanted to see a smaller area such as the mouth of the dragon, I can magnify by either 2, 4, or 8 times the original size of the drawing. And I can also change colors if I wanted to. I'll show you what a painted cell looks like, such as this one.
To do this kind of thing conventionally is both laborious and time-consuming. An even more sophisticated painting system is used for the final stage of the process, drawing the backgrounds.
So are they using
against which
DEC?
the dragons
Are
can
they using
safely
DEC computers? Have I been talking over them
Basics
while
of it all
they've
is
been
the
explaining
tablet's
that?
filled
I'm
with
sorry,
wires,
guys.
horizontal and vertical, and the
Look at
pen
that.
has an antenna on it and a micro switch. So when you get the antenna close to these wires, it gives you the cursor on the screen, so that shows you where you're at. And the menu, when you get the cursor
The
over a word, you
DEC
simply press down on the
VT
micro switch,
something,
and that tells
100?
you what you want to do. Here's a piece out of Dragonflight.
I should show this to my daughter. My daughter's got a big graphics tablet, that a lot of people have these days. One with the screen on it. You can draw down onto it. She'd cringe if she saw this. But look at the effects on that. It's amazing.
I can put more color in it, less color in it for grays, or I can run through the spectrum.
Whoa, that's very impressive. Well, of course, it's fantasy pictures. You can have a purple or a green sky.
Right.
Do you find it feels the same as a pen or a paintbrush?
No, it feels altogether different, but it's very easy to get used to because the tablet and the program is coordinated from screen to here so close that pretty soon you forget what your hand's doing. You simply watch the screen. I think the best way to show that is I'll paint you something right from scratch, because there's a lot of things you can do. And basically the way you work with any art is you flat out some kind of color scheme, get your color schemes working first, and then you go back in and do finish rendering. I'm going to end up with 255 color schemes in a matter of a few minutes, and conventionally you wouldn't even have the first puddle of paint mixed up yet. So I can pick colors off the screen and fill areas to get a color scheme going, or I can pick them from the palette And also it'll flash through them, but I can stop at any place I want. So what it's doing now is rotating through the color map, so it's giving me 255 more color schemes.
It's
Colour cycling.
There's an awful lot of effects you can get out of a computer, very reasonable.
Psychedelic.
I've got all kinds of brushes I can use. For instance, this next brush is a group of dots. And so now you can do a different kind of rendering. You do stipple rendering if you like.
Add texture to the picture.
Yes. So you can render this way with all 256 colors. So you can render like so. Or you can slow down just slightly and you get continuous lines from each dot, or speed up and feather out. So by varying your speed a little bit, with different brushes you get different effects. And what I'm going to do is just make a simple little design here. And if I had to do a couple of thousand daisies, I wouldn't have to worry about it because I simply make a brush out of it. At that point, you got all the daisies you need, or you can have a whole field full. And also, something kind of fun to watch is now the computer is doing some...
Well, it's shifting through the colors for you.
Yes. It's
How amazing
right
to do this
through
back
the
in
brushes I
1984,
use.
to be honest with you.
So as you see, it changes by slowing down or speeding up. You can distort art, stretch art, do all kinds of different things to it. What I'm going to do now is just take a hunk of the screen and reflect it over. But also you can take some of the software and programs that are written for one thing and experiment and come out with unusual things like building textures and things like this.
That's sort of blurring the art out, isn't it? It's making colors blend into one another at their edges.
If you notice this kind of an effect, I would hate to have to pay for something like this on film because it would take you forever.
That's trippy. That is pretty cool, I must admit.
What a magnificent tool. How about one of those for Christmas? Well, of course, the computer doesn't make an artist out of an unskilled person. It's just a tool that speeds up the boring bits. Well, it certainly wouldn't help me. Here's the finished version of the Micro Life Christmas card. We also added Merry Christmas, drawn by our old friend, the Penman Plotter. We've also done an all-singing, all-dancing version of it, which is available on our bulletin board, and you can see it on CFAX on page 710. Well, I've also been passed a note saying that the managing director of Time Fame has rung up to say that they only said there was a possibility of a mole in Prestel, not that there actually was a mole in Prestel. Well, I've now been joined by Matt Nicholson, the editor of What Micro. Welcome, Matt, who's been looking at this month's news. And we're starting off with one per desk from ICL. It's rather an interesting combination of a telephone and a microcomputer. It's really a first on the market.
Yes, it's a very original concept and something that...
Is it a phone or is it a
Can you show
computer?
us some of the things it does?
Yes, indeed. I mean, one thing which instantly...
There's so many things that came along that just never caught on. But I suppose for a secretary or something, you probably saw it a lot.
It's got a nice synthetic voice chip in there,
Yes,
and you can actually type in words up to 800, even from a distance if you can connect into it, and then leave that as a message for somebody. It sounds
Is that
like
micro discs that I can see
Because it's also
plugged
got a
into that?
telephone directory in it, so you can look at it and refer to all your telephone numbers. So it's very nice from a point of view as a telephone.
Very
How about
much,
as a computer?
I'm sure I saw
As a
micro discs.
computer, I mean, in addition to that, it also has the sort of communications with other micros, this sort of thing. But it's based on the QL technology developed by Sinclair, and has the Exchange package built in, which is a very powerful integrated package giving you spreadsheets, databases. And I can show that, and another feature of this machine, which is earlier on I was doing some typing on here. I can get straight back to that by simply pressing one button. And we're straight back to the word processor, the document I was typing in there.
That's very nice. The other thing I quite liked about it, if you get really lost in it, because it is a multi-processor.
Very impressive at the time.
You can hit start and go straight back to your top level thing. Well, how do you sum it up?
Very nice concept, beautiful idea in having the phone with the computer and some of the implications I've done there. But I'm very worried about these, which is these micro drive that we've seen on the QL. They're just not reliable enough.
There
for
you go.
business, I don't think.
Because eventually they will produce them with a 3.5-inch disc.
Again, one of those great ideas.
This only costs £1,200, and I guess, you know, for that price, it's a fairly interesting
Not bad,
concept.
yeah.
What else have you been looking at?
Going further in the user-friendly type of software, we have here GEM from Digital Research.
Ooh,
running on an
it's a
8
GEM
Core F1.
desktop.
It looks very much like Macintosh to me.
It is very much, and I think this is a trend that we're going to see more of, the icons here. And so
Very familiar to anyone who had an
Show
Atari
example.
ST.
Go up to you have the drop-down menus, which we saw on
icons on
the
screen.
package.
That'll never take
From
off.
here, go into a calculator, zooms in. In any moment, there should be a pocket calculator there.
That's very nice. Of course, I might say that the one per desk also has a pocket calculator.
Yes.
And which seems to be quite commonplace. Very nice little concept. And of course, it will work on lots of micros, not just this one.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you very much, Matt.
What next? Toys, maybe? Toys for Christmas? No, it's King Crimson and his drum set. Simmons! That's it, Simmons! Simmons electronic drums.
Lovely.
I knew I'd get there in the end.
From Bill Bruford of King Crimson. Hello. First of all, can you explain to me this pad, the one you didn't hit?
Yes, I can. This avoids a lot of knob twiddling over on the main unit, which you're leaning on.
Sorry about that, I'll get back. Tell me.
And allows me
Yeah, don't lean on Lesley.
16 drum sets.
It's worth a lot of money.
We've taken from the main unit, which draws 99.
Right, and that's 16 choices per pad, I gather.
Yes, it is, and I can recall them just by pressing like so.
Right. I notice you've got
You'd
the
see
kit
these
set up
Simmons
around
electronic
the
drums
Yes.
so much,
Does that
especially
mean that
on
you call these
programs
pads
like
by their equivalent drum
Top of the
names?
Pops
Yes.
that
The
we
one
used
on
to
the
have in the
fourth
UK.
Indeed, it's a place to start. I mean, any
bands
pad
like,
can be
I don't
anything,
know,
so it helps if we start by
Spandau
calling
Ballet,
this
Duran
the
Duran,
bass drum and so forth.
Flock of Seagulls.
One or two of the
So many
sort of
bands
sounds
used
that
them.
you've
I
selected
mean, I think
on
even
different
Depeche
songs.
Mode used
Well,
them, and
certainly. This drum up here sounds like this on program
Def
1.
Leppard.
But then, of course, it might sound
They were
like
used so
14,
often.
more or less at random.
They were so popular and so iconic with that
Completely different.
hexagonal
Anything in between.
hexagonal shape they had.
And how about this bass drum here?
Bass drum on 1 is a fairly
Nice
normal.
dead thud.
Mhm.
Nice sound, actually.
With 14, it has a lot of decay and white noise wound into it.
And you work it with a conventional foot pedal?
That's correct, yeah.
Right. How about a hi-hat?
Well, a hi-hat used
Plus,
to
I mean,
be
the
on
sound
a stalk,
quality
of
was
course, with
it was
Simmons
pretty
on top.
good.
This is another version.
Back in the
of the
day,
Simmons hi-hat.
it was.
Sounds like the-
Sewing machine pedal.
It definitely had its own
Sounds like
sound
that
though.
when
It
you
definitely
press it.
sounded
And when wired
metallic
through
and
this
sounded
pad
like
here,
a,
it sounds like
and they were used very much in that way, weren't they?
the
Still
usual
a,
thing.
But
still
they
a
were very
metallic
good.
sound, though, like
In-
a hi-hat.
Very good
Very
gear.
much so.
And presumably you've got a bank of cymbals that I can't see?
Yes,
or
we
cymbal
have
equivalents?
some metals, yeah.
Yes. Nice. What first got you interested in electronic drums?
Well, when we were reconvening King Crimson, the group I'm in 1981, the rest of the team were, of course, getting very involved with guitar synthesis. And the drummer looked around, obviously, and not wanting to be left out, naturally knocked on Dave Simmons' door. Yeah. And up comes this kind of equipment, which allows me to have a much broader palette with which to...
I expect it took a bit of getting used to, though, didn't it? After an acoustic
some,
kit to
yes,
suddenly-
it does. There are different playing surfaces. Right?
King Crimson were
What does it
very,
feel like to play? Because
very
it
much a
looks as though
progressive
they're
rock
putting up
band,
tabletop.
and
Well,
they're
the
still
playing
going today
surfaces
actually.
are
King
kind of
Crimson.
hard rubber, which is very
Believe it or
comfortable
not.
to play. It's very like the kind of practice pad that most drummers spend their working lives at, and it rebounds the stick very quickly, quicker than an acoustic drum set where you have to work somewhat harder to pick the sticks up off it.
Do you still feel in control of the sort of sound that the kit is giving out?
Oh yes, in fact you need to control it a lot. I mean, it's a big beast and it's got a lot of sound involved in it. You must program and select all the drum sounds that you want, store them in here, recall them here. You can take the sound out of the back on just a stereo left and right feed, pass it to the sound mixer or sound engineer, and he gets what you have programmed. It's very much you're in control.
But that's on the actual pre-setting. What about when it actually comes down to playing, the feel? If you want to hit them
Yes.
hard or soft, does that register?
Very much so. They're touch sensitive, as we say, and depending on what you've programmed into the main controller, sound will change depending on how hard you hit.
You hit them.
Exactly.
Right. Now, you've got this wonderful setup. Presumably you now don't have to be limited to just making drum sounds.
No, that's true. I mean, these are drumistic. These are still what we would call close to being drum sounds, but I know Dave and his company are working for the future a lot on all kinds of sound, any sound being used rhythmically.
Well, we'll hear some of those right now. Thanks, Bill.
Pleasure.
Mac.
Thank you, Lesley. Do you know, I've often thought that at some time or other, every normal person would want to play the drums, and they'd all end up programming microcomputers.
Well, that cuts you out, Mac.
Thank you. Well, the company that makes these electronic drums exports to over 40 different countries, in fact 85% of their production, and is one of the few British companies that export high technology to Japan. Dave Simmons, the inventor and
The very man.
the technology runs
David
the
Simmons.
runs the company. Dave, how did you start?
Well, like Bill, I was slogging around the circuit in various unknown groups. And And the group I was playing with, we had a drummer naturally, and he was pretty bored with hitting dead animal skins. So, being interested in electronics and music, I put together something that he could play, and we could make some nice sounds.
Well, how do they work?
Inside each drum that Bill was hitting is a tiny transducer. I've got one here that's a whiskey bottle. Empty.
Very familiar sound.
Yeah, empty one, of course.
That's proper
and he
gear.
hits the drum,
Look
the
at that.
transducer gives out the signal, the computer says, oh, someone's hit me, I better do something, and it outputs the appropriate
I
sounds
believe
being set
Simmons
up
is
by
still going today, but I think it's been bought and sold a couple of times. I don't think it's actually in the hands of Dave Simmons anymore.
It's a modular system, so
I bet he made his
it
money's
can
worth
take
when he had
12
his,
channels.
you know,
We've got
back
8
when he
here.
had the chance.
And the sound storage for each channel can be anywhere between 8 and 32 kilobytes. There's a ROM sitting inside. In that
Between 8 and
particular
32
unit, there's
kilobytes
1.5
for each
megabytes
sample.
of ROM. And it's mixing
Not much
with
room
analog
then,
sound
there is there?
filtering and noise to make,
Using pretty
other
small
sounds.
samples.
Well, I'm sure you've been asked this question 100 times. The drum devices themselves, why are they hexagonal and not round?
I've also been asked about 6 times in rehearsal this, but same story. We couldn't afford a circular saw, so we bought a straight saw instead. But no, seriously, anybody that sees the hexagonal shape on TV knows it's a Simmons kit, and that's, as a company, what we want.
What other sounds can you use?
This little unit here, called a sampling unit,
I mean,
actually
that
samples
definitely worked.
acoustic sounds and
They are
blows the proms
proper
so that we can
identifiable
use any sound
from a
now
mile away.
for percussion. They're not limited to drum-like sounds anymore. And I've got a few here. I can just tap. And of course, we could sample a sound now if you're game for it.
Oh, I'm game for anything.
Used to do this so much on my Amiga. Sampling sounds from my master sound system stuck in the back. Sample it and create different, stick it into the keyboard.
I'm getting really creative today. I'm not
I was
an artist,
rubbish.
I'm a singer.
Right,
No, it
I'll
was
press the
great
button
fun.
and we'll make some music.
Trying to make demos and stuff.
What is that doing? That's
This
soundtrack and
is
mods
a
and
computer
whatnot.
which hits the drum rather better than Bill does.
Don't hit him, Bill.
And we're putting the dog. And we can change the sounds. And we can stop it.
Well done. How far are we along, Bill? Are we just at the beginning, or are we going to see a lot in the future?
Well, I think we should terminate our relationship right here and now. Obviously, we go as far as Dave's imagination can go. I think electronic drums are about the same position that electric guitar was at in 1949, 1950.
You seem to be playing it very much like an ordinary drum kit. Do you normally do it like that?
Yes, in the studio I was playing as per a normal drum set, but we have here, I hope, a piece of videotape live from Tokyo with the group I'm in. And that shows the drums positioned in another way, vertically, so I can stand and demonstrate more clearly what it is that I'm doing.
Great, thank you, Bill.
Yep, very progressive, very experimental. Not exactly my cup of tea, but brilliantly well demonstrated. This is like me when I go to Toys R Us and one of the keyboards is actually switched on and I just mess about with all the different sounds, making all sorts of noise. So is this the obligatory drum solo that you get in a concert that you always have to have?
Bill Bruford drumming up a storm there. Now,
She's
Christmas
saying
is coming.
exactly the same thing that
Far
I'm
too
saying.
fast for some of us,
Not my
actually.
cup
And
of
if you've
tea.
been racking your brains out
But,
trying to
you know,
decide
can
what
certainly
to buy for the
appreciate it.
computer buff in your life, worry no
Ooh,
more. We
Christmas
are here
stuff.
to help. John Coll has been looking at some of the choices. Now, John, what sort of things are in the shops this Christmas?
Rubs
and I'm
hands
not, of course,
together.
talking about rushing out spending thousands of pounds on computers.
Yep, there are
It's
lots,
the bits, isn't
lots
it?
of nice cheap things, good
Okay.
books, software. This is a really nice book, The First Computer Dictionary by Brian Samways.
Oh, a jargon
ideal,
buster.
Nicely illustrated, clear, simple. Ideal for, I would thought, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old.
38-year-olds, thank you, that's my Christmas present. Actually, I'm not kidding, that's going to be very useful.
It's nice.
Yep.
Another good book, I rather like this, online handbook. Loads of information about database you want to dial up if you're a real techie, as Mac would
Lovely,
say.
yeah.
Yeah, Mac, that's for you.
Plenty of Christmas
Oh,
gift
Mind
ideas coming
Program.
along
Now, actually, this
thick
is
and
cheeky,
fast
really,
here.
'cause this is the book that accompanies a programme on the disc. I don't know if
Right.
you see the disc inside there. It's a programme which is a sort of personality test. It'll cause chaos in your family, I'm absolutely warning you. Computer asks you questions about somebody, you answer it, then the computer tells you what this person is like. Now, we fed Mac into this computer. Do you know what it said?
I hate to
on
think.
this programme, rather. It declared him to be efficient, bossy, sophisticated and irresistible. It got it spot on, didn't
Bar
it,
the
Mac?
last
Anyway,
bit.
but this seriously, it's fun only.
Load of rubbish.
ruin
I
your
mean, it's
Christmas.
marvellous.
Yeah, not for
Right.
scientific
Excellent
research.
book here, Robots. This is in the Usborne style, and it really is a carpenter's guide to how to make a robot.
Oh, that's a good book.
Beautiful illustrations.
What sort of age group, quickly? are we
Oh,
aiming at?
7, 8, 9, 10, 11,
Anybody.
12 plus dads.
Yeah, exactly.
There's software deep down here, listings and so on in the back. That's quite fun.
Okay, and I mean, you get a lot of book for your money in these two, don't you? The complete Commodore
This is-
64 and the complete Spectrum.
Buy it
Right.
for your
Real
child.
good techie stuff.
Build it for
Now,
yourself.
how about annual subscription to your favourite technical magazine? Good
Well,
idea?
that would be really nice. If someone's going to give me a subscription,
Byte
I'll
magazine.
be very happy to accept a
Byte
subscription
magazine?
to Byte. Good mag, every month.
I didn't used to buy many.
Obvious,
I had a few though.
presents is software, but it is a bit of a minefield, isn't it? Unless you know
Found
which
it way
computer
too
you're
serious.
buying.
I liked my
Yes.
Zap
Having
and
said
my
that, and you know,
Commodore
what do you
user.
recommend?
Okay, well, let's have a look at 3 really good selling ones at the moment. There's Elite on the BBC Micro, and I must admit I got vaguely addicted to that. It's
Does it
really
need
rather nice.
any introduction whatsoever?
There's
What a
Night
game.
Law on the Spectrum, and 3D chess on the QL, and the graphics on that really are almost unbelievable.
Yes, even from here, actually, you can see
Quite
they're nice
something.
and clear. Very
Lovely.
nice.
And we've got a couple here. This is Chiller for the Commodore 64, which is retailing $199, I gather, one
Chiller.
of the cheapest. And
$199. Did
Ghostbusters
it?
for
Is that the one with the
64.
original music
That,
or the
comes out beautifully. It's the
changed
bestseller
soundtrack
of
for
the Commodore
copyright
64
reasons?
range, and coincides with the launch of the film.
Oh, of course,
today.
this was
That's very
Christmas
nice.
#1 in
But just look at
1984,
this.
Ghostbusters.
Now, what's so special about
In
this
the
one?
in the
Well, this
movies
one
at the
is
cinema.
for the BBC Micro, and I'm kidding you not. It's published by British Telecom.
What a film.
And it is called The Hacker. And I guess
That's
that it
what,
must be a
37 years ago.
self-instructional
Can you
course
believe
for people
that?
who-
Ghostbusters
it
is
can't be.
37 years old.
Clearly a logo on it. Well,
Why did my
anyway,
maths
Genuinely,
right?
it's British Telecom.
That's unbelievable.
They deserve what they got, really, didn't they?
So be
Okay,
it.
well, we've been talking about really the low end of the market,
Yes.
but price-wise, that is. What about if we're going to lash out?
Right, a couple
What do I
of more
fancy?
expensive items up here.
Well, I'll tell you what I fancy, actually.
Go on, then.
A Simmons drum kit, but I can't afford it.
Yes.
Since I can't, for about £200, is it? I
£200.
would like the music
Right,
synthesizer.
listen to this. We've got the output of this Acorn product recorded. It's pretty good, isn't it? That
That's
plugs
lovely.
straight into a Beeb Micro and is programmed on the BBC keyboard. £200, quite nice.
Very nice for the music enthusiast,
Yes.
presumably.
Now,
Not a bad
tell
piece
me
of kit.
about your weakness, because I know you have a particular thing that you...
Well, no, before I was going to ask you, actually, what
Oh.
I could buy you. Isn't that
What you can
generous?
buy me? Oh, well,
yes,
all right, if
supposing
you're
I
gonna
was
do
very,
that.
very rich, for instance.
No problems, absolutely no problems.
It's like real Christmas, actually. It's lovely.
Well, I can take this one away with me. I've got one already, but I'll have another one.
Oh, it's the Penman
This is a
plotter.
Penman plotter, and it's not only a plotter, it's a sort of robot device, which we've seen on this programme a number
used
of
that
times
a few
before,
times on
but
this
it can
programme.
drive around and draw some really
Was it used on the
excellently
Spectrum and the
detailed prints in 3 colours.
BBC?
Is that compatible with all
It's
micros
compatible with the
or-
Beeb and Apple and IBM.
Oh, that's it.
Special offer till Christmas, under 200.
Right.
My
That is
mistake.
very, very nice.
Under 200.
Just, well, you
Right.
get a penny.
Well, look, I'll tell you what, I can't quite run to that, so I'm going to give you for Christmas something
Yes.
that I already have one of myself.
Yes, I think
It's
I'll
a
take
micro
it.
kit bag. It costs around £16. Seriously, I've
Looks
casted
like a
my
laptop bag.
BBC B around into work and things in it, and it is well designed.
You can stick in your BBC in.
Nice and easy to hold.
Yes.
£16.
Pockets the lot.
Wow.
Thank you very much. I'll take that out with me if I can get away with it.
Well, that's all we've got time for, actually.
Is that it?
These will have to wait till next year's
that
Christmas.
That's
all we've
50
got
minutes
time for,
done?
In fact, this year, because our next programme is on Friday, January the 11th, 1985.
Well, I'm still admiring my creation here. If
anyone will.
Well, if anybody would like to employ me as a Christmas card designer, you can write to me at the BBC. Well, thank you very much for watching. Have a good Christmas, Happy New Year. But just before we go,
Happy Christmas and
I
Happy
thought
New Year
Lesley
to you too,
deserved a
Ian.
present for all that you've done for us. This is a three-dimensional, full-colour, super silent microcomputer.
Oh, well,
And you can
okay,
also
guys.
use the
Well,
terminal.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I love watching these old episodes. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope you have a really nice Christmas, and we'll see you soon. Thank you very much for watching today. Bye bye.